Candid conversation with Grammy Award-winning rapper, producer, actor, and entrepreneur T.I.
I know what it's like to be one of the forgotten ones.
Yeah.
I know what it's like. I know what it feels like to feel like, you know, nobody really cares that it's like this where we are.
Yeah.
And in order for any of them to have hope, any people in that position or a position similar to ours, the ones we were fortunate enough to make it out of, in order to give back, like, you got to care enough. You got to care. You got to have a real genuine passion for wanting to do better for those that need it most.
Tonight, a candid conversation with Grammy Award-winning rapper, producer, actor, and entrepreneur T.I. Well, welcome to the show, T.I., or as I'll call you the rest of the interview, Tip.
Oh, T.I.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Let me straighten my posture. Nah, I'm just playing, man. Congratulations.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it. Congratulations on you. It's 20 years since I'm serious. Since I heard about this skinny, raw rapping kid from the West Side. From neighborhoods right next to one another, but DJ Toomp and KB up there, Jason. You always know the big words. But I heard about you. I heard about Toomp working with you, KP, A&R, and when I heard the music, I met Jason Jeter, business partner first, and I remember Jason playing. I was just like, whoa, 20 years, man. I'm serious. We still here.
Yeah.
You still the king.
It's a blessing.
Yeah. What's 20 years been like in music?
Man, the only way I could describe it is it being more of a blessing than anything, just to do what I love for a living for so long. Yeah. And, you know, to still be among the respected and to still be relevant. People
understand there's competition in rap, right? So if you play Little League ball, they tell you that other guys on the other team, he's gonna want to tackle you, got to run through him. When you're a rapper, it's a similar thing. They say, this other guy is this and this, you got to be. And we got all that. You know, there were people hyping from all sides. But I remember when a lot of the older guys, and not much older sometimes, were heard King of the South, they got offended and they would try to co-op and say, what do you think about him calling himself King? I was like, if that's what he calls himself, then absolutely. I don't have a problem. I never wanted to be a king. So I never understood everybody. And no one else wanted to be until you created that. And when you created it, there was a pushback. And I loved the fact that Too Short actually admitted he said, I wasn't with it at first. And he said, a year later, I came back and he was the king. What gave you the audacity to do it? And beyond what gave you the audacity to do it, do you feel like setting that marker propelled you towards success by saying, I gotta do it?
Let's see. Okay.
Because you proved yourself right.
I appreciate that. Okay, so first off, my next album is Kill the King. It will be my next and final album.
Wow.
And I think that two things happened. One, I made others aware that it was okay to say you were king. You know what I mean? Because just in all honesty, we're all kings.
Absolutely.
Just it's those of us who believe it and those of us who don't.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I might have been the first to say it out loud. You know what I mean? I think, and if that can plant the seed for others after me to now feel like they're king, that's exactly what prompted me to do it. KP and I were riding from Lenox Mall, actually on the way to Patchwork to record 2 Glock 9s with Beanie Sigel. 2 Glock 9s with Beanie Sigel was my first big feature, the first time I was gonna be, you know, rapping alongside an all-star in the game, if you will. And on the way to that session, KP and I were riding in his car, we were listening to Mystikal's album. I think he had just dropped Tarantula, if I ain't mistaken. On his album, he said he the Prince of the South. So I cut the music down. I say, but if he's the prince, who's the king? You know, it was a rhetorical question. You know what I mean? I didn't really expect an answer. And then there was a beat of silence, and then KP and I both looked at each other, and he said, "You wouldn't." I say, well, yes, I will. And when we went to the studio, that's the first time I said I was King of the South. And oddly enough, I never really felt as strongly about it until people started telling me that I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And I always respected my my predecessors, the people who came before me, opened the doors, blazed the trail for me to be able to do what I'm doing now. So what people don't know is I actually had sidebar discussions with all of the people who I had access to, who I respected, who I felt that should have a say in how, how I present myself, whether or not I presented myself as the king of the South. Nobody said no. I spoke to Andre, I spoke to Big Boy, I spoke to Cujo, Timo, Gip, CeeLo, I spoke to Bun B. Pimp C was he was away on mandatory vacation.
I'll talk about that.
But he proxied his thoughts through Bun. I spoke to Scarface, and no one seemed to have any. Now I will say I was cautioned. You know what I mean? I was cautioned by Big and Scarface. Scarface was like, man, I don't want to be king. Go ahead, you can have that. And Big said, well, now, if you're going to be king, just understand you're putting a target on your back. You're making yourself, susceptible to dispute and controversy. I don't think that's what he said. I don't think in those words, but that was the
target
thought.
on your back. He did.
Yeah, he did say that. So, and I was with all that. I was like, but you don't have an issue though. I ain't worried about what nobody else how they feel. Do you have an issue? Cool. Me knowing they did not object or that they did not have any negative feelings or knee-jerk reactions to it, that gave me everything I needed to push through the rest of the industry. Because these the only ones who should have something to say about it.
Yeah.
None of you guys in my class or in a class below theirs should even be speaking on it.
Yeah.
And so I just pushed with that, with that enthusiasm, and it brought me all the way here to today.
Hey, take a good look at me. Now picture me unhappy.
You have stepped off the throne many times, come out of the castle, and been right there in the streets, down to the protests that were happening at the CNN Center, and even standing with the mayor.
When you don't get treated right in New York, when you don't get treated right in LA, when you can't get treated right in Detroit, when you don't get treated right in St. Louis, when you don't get treated right in Alabama, Atlanta has been here for us. This city don't deserve it. However, I understand that a lot of others do. But we can't do this here. This is Wakanda. It's sacred, must be protected.
What brought you to social activism, and what keeps you there? Because it's often a thankless job, especially when you have a target on your back.
What brought me to it was the thought of me questioning myself. Like questioning myself is, looking around, okay, you have all these things, you've done all this stuff, you have all this access, but what have you really done to shape and mold the world that your children will have to live in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how have you used your influence to impact society to benefit your children and grandchildren as they grow to inherit the world that you leave behind? Yeah. And when I think about that, like a hit record ain't gonna do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? A platinum plaque or, like none of that shit gonna do that. What's the use in being able to buy your child a Benz for their birthday if they gonna get snatched out of it at the red light?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know what it's like to be one of the forgotten ones.
Yeah.
I know what it's like, I know what it feels like to feel like, nobody really cares that it's like this where we are.
Yeah.
And in order for any of them to have hope, any people in that position or a position similar to ours, the ones we were fortunate enough to make it out of, in order to give back, like, you got to care enough. You got to care. You got to have a real genuine passion for wanting to do better for those that need it most. I think that's what got me there, just having a heart, you know what I mean? Just having empathy, because I know how I was impacted. I know how people around me was impacted. So I just want to do what I can and kind of just use my influence as much as possible.
You actually had the honor of teaching it's a Clark, right?
Yes, Clark Atlanta University.
Which is the most well-connected group of kids. Those kids, when they come out of the entertainment industry, they're everywhere.
Absolutely.
So you got to teach trap biz. You and Tidal partnered to do that. What was that like, getting an opportunity, not only from the street perspective, but from what you would actually learn from some of the best mentors? Because you've been around L.A. Reid, You've been around Kevin Liles. You and Jason Jeter did a phenomenal business. I've seen you grow business people within your organization. Jason Jeter, Hannah Kane, Clay. You are about the business of being in business. I caught on late. Like, I was an artist for the first 18 years of my career, and I had to understand, like, no, being a businessman is really, you have to marry yourself to art in order to have that longevity. What was teaching like? You know, what was your reward out of that?
So what comes to mind is a phrase that was bestowed upon me by our young partner, Thugger, who we call Slime.
Slime.
So, you know, I interviewed him for my podcast, you know, when it was running, called Expeditiously. And what he said to me is, you must teach what's been taught. You know what I mean? So all of those things that you just listed, which I take part credit, I can't take full credit for, because I really do believe I'm just a vessel, I'm an instrument. You know what I mean? I think that all of those people that you named have their own individual and collective ability to do great things.
Yes.
I was just put here by the universe to kind of inspire, encourage, enhance, and support.
Yeah.
If everything that I've done and everything that I've learned doesn't get passed on to benefit the next generation, then it just dies with me.
Yeah.
And that's not a win. That's not, you know, I don't think ain't no progression, ain't no evolution in that. You gotta lay it out for somebody else to be able to grab onto it, for them to enhance it and allow it to manifest itself into the next level or the next phase of success. And that's kind of what teaching or sharing my experiences were like. Came from a speaking engagement that I did in Louisiana, and at that speaking engagement, one of a teacher from Grambling, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, came and said, "Hey, listen, I just want to gauge your interest on teaching at a HBCU." And I was like, "Are you sure?" And then she was like, "Yeah." Her name's Melva, Miss Melva Williams, by the way. And she said, "Yeah, sure." And I say, "Man, I mean, I'll explore. Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it." And I think what we came to terms was it would be better for me to start that journey in Atlanta at the AU. Yeah. And when she extended that idea or opportunity to her counterparts at Clark Atlanta University, they said without question. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then we just began to build the curriculum. Yeah. You know, and I think that, you know, that opportunity has allowed me to show how first of all, so the course is the business of trap music. Yes. Okay, trap music is music in, around, involving, and telling the stories of people who were affected by the war on drugs. Absolutely. Okay. Now, in order to talk about the business of trap music, and in order to talk about trap music, you must talk about the source, which is the war on drugs and how it happened and what caused for all of these stories to become relevant to so many people. Absolutely. What causes so many people to have visceral reactions and to have real palpable feelings when you hear Percocet, Percocet, Molly, Percocet so many times on the radio, and it becomes a top 10 hit. And it becomes a top 10 hit because so many people can relate to it. How can they relate to it? Because the opioid crisis. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. These are people who are put in positions that they didn't put themselves in. It's a system far more authoritative than they have the helm of, that are placing them in a place that they can't necessarily get themselves out of. Yeah. And when they hear songs like Dope Boys and Trap Niggas, when they hear songs like Mask Off, you know, any of these other songs that, you know, people say promote this kind of activity, it's really therapy for them and letting them know that they aren't going through it alone.
Sarah, you said you were buying a car.